They didn't appreciate it. No. I mean, the mountains are gorgeous. And houses are beautiful. Where were you? Georgia.
Where in Georgia?
Anything, Georgia?
Yeah, I think this is an update for the agent, just this down.
Thanks, Chris. Explain.
Your sheet's fine. Look back at the services. This figure didn't populate.
Just, you may not need it. Just, yeah.
So page. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But you don't. Just trying to help.
Thank you. It'd be even more helpful. Even more helpful if you said.
Okay,
No.
you want to start? Jim's going to.
Okay.
Okay, we will open this meeting. This is a special meeting of the Geauga County Budget Commission. Today is Monday, April 21st, 2025. It is 10:05 a.m. Can you go live, please? Okay. So first order of business is the approval of the minutes from April 7th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Voluminous.
The next order of business is the reopening of some tabled county levy departments. 2026 budget review. First one, Department on Aging. Can you quickly just go through the numbers once again? Jessica, if you want to come up, you can. I think, well, I don't want to speak for anybody, but my review looked like it was, everything was satisfied, but you're welcome to.
We're happy to come to the
Yeah, that'd be
for
fine.
questions in case there are any.
Good.
I appreciate how
Yank on that.
Dwayne got on this right away. I appreciate that. We have
Thank you.
plenty of time. I think I had almost 2 weeks to review it, which is unusual. So if you want to go through who's going to do it, Tammy or Christine?
Cancel.
For the general fund or Fund 2034, the Department of Aging submitted their 2026 budget with a beginning estimated unencumbered cash balance of $1,346,677.39. They requested revenue in the amount of $4,173,435. The Budget Commission will consider $909,550. Estimated expenses at $4,491,133.93 with an ending cash balance of negative $2,234,906.54. Fund 4019 estimated beginning cash balance of $1,746,979.66. No revenue or transfers in. Estimated expenses of $1,550,000, leaving an ending cash balance of $196,979.66.
So, I mean, just so we all understand, the requested revenue versus the estimated certification of revenues, because their levy is currently on the ballot. We obviously can't certify it until it is passed. So that's the explanation of the anticipated negative cash balance. And we'll deal with it as the election proceeds. I think the question that I recall from the first hearing was there were no anticipated expenditures out of the capital fund, which Dwayne provided a good set and some summaries. I think, Chris, you had a question. So is there anything that's left to remain unanswered? But
I think there continues to be the concern, should the levy pass? My simple math skills indicate that $3.2 million would be added,
yeah, so it'd be 1,029,000 basically would be the balance.
and then the estimated expense for 27 would be another $4.5 million. Take that balance again. Is that about right?
But the revenue, that revenue would continue. But the cash balance would not remain negative because it would be offset by the levy continuing to collect.
But they're only going to have $3.2 million on the levy.
Correct.
If their burn rate is $4.5 million
I see what you're saying.
in 27, you're going to be a negative again.
Based upon the conservative numbers that we have for the grants, now granted, we are uncertain about the federal grants, how they pan out. We have been fortunate to exceed our grant revenue. We did budget conservatively on the grants. Also, I do want to bring attention to our expenses for our contract services, specifically for nutrition contracts and our contract services for our home care program. That would be 601, 2007, 2008, as well as a 2010. We typically spend less than what is budgeted. We do budget those programs based upon setting those programs for a specific number of clientele. However, we do spend less as those homebound clients are often in the hospital, so they do not receive the full allotted amount of what we budget for those programs. So we typically do come under every single year for what we budget for those programs, but we do set that contract budget amount based upon the bid amount for those providers. So since it's a service program, we allot it for the clients that we assign to that program, but once again, due to hospitalizations, cancellations, we do end up spending less for those programs.
So I would hazard a guess. Here's an extra $1 million. You would anticipate at one point you can't see upside down. No. There's an extra $1 million. So I would expect in 26, you're going to have another actual cash balance of $1 million more. Because the trend has always been you underexpend by about $1 million, which is what you're telling me.
I can't say that it would be $1 million, but a couple $100,000, we would most likely come under these funds, these two contract areas.
So 23 is $700,000, 24 is $1.4 million, 25 it's $1 million. But 26, you're going to have at least $800,000 based on history.
The 2024 was kind of an anomaly due to the excess grants that we received in. Coming in at 783,000 plus grants as opposed to the previous.
Okay, so the key concern I had previously was the construction expense.
Yes.
So that's going to happen.
Yes.
I have nothing further. Good play. No.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Yes.
Aye.
No.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, we don't.
Wait, yeah, we do.
Thanks again for jumping on. This was kind of with the Easter holiday. It got not nice on Friday.
Thank you.
First day back.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Next up is Kate. Is Katie here? Katie comes.
I don't
I don't
think,
No,
think they were.
I don't think she was
said that.
required to.
Right.
no.
That's what you said.
So could you go through their numbers for us as well?
Sure.
I think their issues were primarily not in their levy fund, it was in some other ones, correct?
No, I think it was their last.
Was it the levy
Yeah.
fund?
Math error.
Yeah.
Well, they never adjusted the current year's figures to
25.
come up with the accurate 2026.
Could you run through those?
So, the engineering department submitted their 2026 budget for fund 2020. They estimated beginning, unencumbered cash balance of 564,766.02. Requesting revenue in the amount of 9,534,000, which the budget commission will consider. Estimated expenses of 9,621,615, leaving an ending cash balance of 477,161.02. Fund 2022, beginning unencumbered estimated cash balance of 15,383.58. Requesting revenue in the amount of 100,000, which the budget commission will consider. Estimated expenses of 100,000, leaving an ending cash balance of the same, 15,383.58. Fund 4002, estimated beginning cash balance of 170,834.04. Requesting revenue in the amount of 3,606,219, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of 3,600,000, leaving an ending cash balance of $177,053.04.
And
I mean, they've done a really good job of correcting the levy issue that it's 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Where they're, and it's hard to do for them because the cost of asphalt is such a variable, but having $177,000 left in the levy is basically zero.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that they've always done well is they look at their budget throughout the current year. So when they're getting, and then they have too much or too, they could draw back projects or they've added projects late in the year. And I think most people, even me, sometimes you're not looking at your budget throughout the year.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like them to do is give these numbers to us soon for this year. Because I was pushed to the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I was not in town Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was not fun coming back on Monday morning.
Well, no, I had the same problem, but I thought there was just one thing that was the whole up.
Well, engineer we danced with them for about 2 weeks, right? It was back and forth, back and forth.
Mhm.
So I thought this was wrapped up. So I was running off of a preliminary set of numbers, which the problem is you vet it and then the numbers change. So you have to vet it again. It's just I don't have time to do it once, let alone 3 times. So that's the part I think I'd like to correct going forward. But so whose motion?
my only concern is anybody paid out of 4002? There's a $200,000 cash balance.
I don't think,
They're paying
No, I
people.
think these are all road projects.
so I think when they passed the levy, it was, we're putting 100% of that money into the road.
Okay. And
No.
no personnel.
No.
No,
Okay.
and that's their difficult is if a road runs, there's a plus and minus that a road project can run against. So they have to be careful hedging their bet. Because if they all go positive, they could deplete you go negative in that fund. If they all go under budget, they're gonna have excess surplus and then we're gonna come after them.
Yeah.
That's that balance.
That's how they got sideways with us, was the Washington Street fiasco, which wasn't their fault.
They dragged on past the time and then it went to the next budget.
2 times,
Okay.
and a half.
Yeah,
Whose motion?
It's yours.
It's yours. Some of.
Second, yes.
yes.
Send it to them.
Okay, next up
You're
is
really forcing us into responsible size signatures.
next up is GFS. You want to go through the numbers?
JFS submitted their 2026 budget for fund number 2013. They have a beginning estimated cash balance of $2,945,880.81, requesting revenue in the amount of $7,607,038, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of $7,765,109, leaving an ending balance of $2,787,809.81. Fund 2014, beginning estimated balance of $737,706.92, requesting revenue in the amount of $1,061,191, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of $1,156,396, leaving an ending balance of $642,501.92. Fund number 2029, which is their levied fund, beginning estimated balance of $1,026,522.06, requesting revenue in the amount of $6,742,483. The Budget Commission will consider $5,103,518. Estimated expenses of $6,129,434, leaving an ending balance of $606.06. Fund 2069, beginning estimated balance of $15,107.28, requesting revenue in the amount of $433,575, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of the same, leaving an ending cash balance of $15,107.28. Fund 6029, beginning estimated balance of $1,401,589.38, requesting revenue in the amount of $1,267.46, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of $1,409,230, leaving an ending balance of $1,259,405.38.
Questions?
There's a lot of money on the table here. Millions of dollars that have been sitting and sitting. And it's your indication that you are now going to have real expense for building and improvement of $6 million in next year.
You already started spending on that between this year and next year. Yes, sir.
So, how do we make sure that that is going to be spent?
We're continuing to proceed with the project on a weekly basis. We've already started expending upon that with the architects, and we're going through a step-by-step process, which unfortunately takes a lot longer than I would have hoped, but it's moving along.
Will you be in construction
I'm hoping by the end of the summer. Yes, sir.
of this summer, 2025?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When will it be completed?
$6 million question, but hopefully within a year-ish, year and a half. I'm always hoping sooner, but
And what will the construction cost be in the end?
between $6 and $7 million, there's $1 million grant on the table coming from the state, which was a reimbursement grant. However, because the property cannot be mortgaged, it can't be a reimbursement. It's going to have to be a grant that's going to have to go, going to be held and dispersed over a certain number of years. The commissioners we'll be talking about this tomorrow at commissioner session. The commissioners may be putting up $1 million in addition, if need be, as kind of a flex fund, depending on if the project is more than $6 million. And then the commissioners will be getting reimbursed over a certain number of years to be determined by the state.
So your expenditure of $6 million is for this coming year.
We would need to open the purchase orders.
You're
as
gonna
soon
pay
as
for
we
the
start
whole thing before it's completed. Is what?
We would need to open the purchase order for the contract, and then it would likely carry over into 2026.
Yeah, the appropriations would need to be in place for the encumbrance. Yeah. Not that they're gonna spend it all.
Well, you're telling the public you're gonna spend it all this fiscal year.
I don't have any way to predict what the amount of the carryover would be on that encumbrance, so I have chosen to include the whole thing in this year's budget.
Okay, there's that little alarm bell going off? That little alarm bell's going off. Because it's so much money that you are providing us that will be expended. I am concerned.
How would you prefer us to show that in our budget?
Well, I think it would be more honest to reflect when you are going to actually spend the money.
As in a
As-
carryover amount reflected in 2026 or an actual budget amount?
Well, it might even be good to have a schedule of what the project is going to cost over the timeline of the year build. Because there's only, 8 months left in this year. You're not going to spend $6 million in 8 months. You're still at drawings, is that right?
No, we're a little beyond that, but yes,
One spade in the ground.
hopefully this summer.
We don't have drawings.
Well, what do you mean? What types of drawings? We do have drawings, but not full blown from the construction because they haven't been selected yet. But we have architecture
You don't
drawings.
have, you don't have construction drawings that you can go to a bid with.
No, we have construction, we do,
You have
but
like
no, we have more than that.
conceptual drawings.
More than that, but we're ready to go to bid once they have to do finish the survey. We had the survey done on the other project. They have to finish the survey on this. I mean, we should be going out to bid within the next couple of months.
So you change the site.
Well, we did change the site, so.
which then changed the heat, which meant everything had to be redone inside the building to reflect gas heat instead of electric heat.
Yeah.
So
That's where
What-
changing
what
the site
fund
right there.
What fund is going to be used to expend all of this money?
2029.
And that's the only one?
Yes, sir.
In discussing with Ron, we felt that because the levy was the primary funder, it was better suited to sit in the children's services fund.
So I'll be honest with you, I've had maybe 5 minutes to work on this. Primarily because I didn't even get sent to me the changes until
This morning,
Friday at noon
electronically. yes.
while I was driving 12 hours. So I'm disappointed at the lack of priority that has been given to getting us the numbers for this hearing. That,
I can appreciate and understand that concern. We've had several deadlines with our state as well and several considerations with budget funding going forward that we've had to address at the same time.
yeah, well, I'm just saying, I'm not concerned about the state. I'm concerned about what our role is in this. And just the 5 minutes I spent, I calculated 36% cash carryover in 2013, 56% cash carryover in 2014, 27% carryover in 2029, and 89.4% carryover in 6029. Those are cash percent carryovers. That's a lot of money. That's more than any agency in the county that I'm aware of, that we've heard. And I'm getting it at the last minute, which to me, I can't do a service to the taxpayers when I've got 30 seconds to review almost $10 million worth of funds. I would have preferred a couple of days to study this. So I'm gonna have to bow out of it.
You want to table it? I mean, again, I think with these, it's,
Well, each
I'm
one
doing this so we can get it to Adrian for his
I
process.
understand.
We technically don't have to.
Obviously, all of us had a deadline for providing our data to the commissioners last Friday, which I would expect Adrian to hold us accountable for if that didn't come to fruition, but we had that same challenge. So we're all getting told in 100 directions. I can't do this in 10 minutes.
Table. We can, I'm fine tabling it. I would say that, I mean, there is a lot of money here, but I guess I have an advantage over the two of you in that I know what's been going on with the youth center, for the past 18 months. And there's been a delay. It's not really there. I mean, they switched the site, which I think was a smart move. And that's just my personal opinion, but I think that was a good move, switching the site. I mean, I didn't know that there wasn't natural gas at that other site. That the fact that you even considered it, that blows my mind. I didn't even know. I thought it was a terrible site before I knew that piece of information. But they do have this $1 million from the state. My office has been haggling with the state over the terms of that, and I think
Is that included in their revenue?
it is not.
No, because the commissioners are the applicant for that grant.
It was going to be $1 million. The state is used to granting the money to more private entities, so they wanted a mortgage and stuff that we just don't do. And so now, I think the thought is that commissioners might front the $1 million, and then they would pay it over 10 years.
It would be put in escrow and it would be paid over 10 years.
Yeah, so that they would just, the grant would basically be a per year grant at $100,000 a year. So, either way, that kind of takes that out of the equation for them, but it's been worth, I mean, for $1 million, you gotta wait 3 or 4 extra months. I think that's, you know, they've got a responsibility to our taxpayers to do that, so. And I'm glad, I think we've been able to work that out, so. You need a new youth center. I mean, the need's there, the money's there. I mean, I'm kind of, if you didn't have, if the youth center wasn't so far along, I'd even be on their side of maybe whacking this down a lot. So, but I think that you've got a good vision with that and a good use for these excess funds because they're needed there, and it's a significant need. And I think there'll be some savings over time. I mean, I don't think it'll pay for it, but it's driving all over the state of Ohio with these kids and some of the, I can't get into publicly, some of the incidents we've had with the
Well, not only
transportation.
that, just so I'm transparent on that, I think significant savings, if not even being able to compare to what we've been spending. I mean, we may actually be able to bring some revenue in from out of the county, considering what Ravenwood charges for a per diem at the current youth center, like $270 a night, which is like pennies on the dollar compared to, we have some placements that we're paying close to $1,000 a night.
So does Ravenwood own that building? The current youth center?
No, the commissioners own it and they allow for them to operate their program in there, which will be the same, likely the same setup that's expected in the new building. But instead of having maxing out at 7-8 kids, which is really what we can do now, just the way it's set up, you know, we'll be able to have up to 16. But the new building will be more efficient. And they'll be able to staff it maybe even with less people, just with the way the sight lines are in the building.
Yeah, I mean, the current one's
It is. And we're grateful.
horrible is a nice word.
We're grateful to have it.
Something,
To
yeah.
have it. And I think we can really, the commissioners can really repurpose that building and make it up to speed. I mean, with some help. I mean, I think.
Purpose of the bulldozer, but.
We'll have to bring it up to code no matter what.
Yeah, I don't know that that should be used as a residential facility moving forward. To me, that thing's a dinosaur. But no, I just think we're gonna have to take a leap of faith. But I will tell the two of you, from my perspective, this is very far along. In fact, he's much further along than the person who just and much more organized, frankly.
Well, I don't know that I'm an advocate of taking tax money from our residents and building a facility so that they can become a profit center for other entities to use service. That should not be our driver. And absent being able to study this and determine what is that component and how much of that is put on the table, I'm just not comfortable.
I get it. I don't think the goal with the new youth center is to become a profit center. I mean,
Well, that's what,
I think
No, I'm just
they
saying.
may have extra beds, but right now we're paying third-party vendors 2 hours away.
I
To
understand
house
that,
these
but the
kids
taxpayer, I mean,
and-
you add up the total revenue that JFS is obtaining, it's, close to $15 million. And
Yeah, no, it's a lot
it's
of
a lot
money.
of money. This isn't a small enterprise.
Listen, even after you build this thing, you're not solving Chuck's problem long term. I mean, this is going to buy you a few years.
Well,
with
my
us.
point is, at a $15 million revenue level, I've spent more energy on townships, half of that revenue, scrutinizing their budget versus 5 minutes. So I'm just not,
Would you want to table it?
it's your call if you want to table. I'm just telling you, I can't vote in favor of something I can't.
And that's fine. Listen, I will. I mean, I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but your delay in getting this to us delayed the entire package getting this to us. This is a point of frustration.
Budget commission meets again in 2 weeks.
This hearing was already tabled once.
I know.
So we're gonna table it again and then what? We keep tabling it? So the can gets kicked down the road? I don't understand. I thought 2 weeks ago when we had the other meeting, we tabled because we had needed other information. Getting the information is one thing, vetting it is the second matter. We all vet things differently, and I tend to take time and go through the numbers.
Table again or just vote no on?
I don't think we should table a meeting that's already tabled.
What do you want?
have my concerns. That's Chuck Palmer, cash balances. To kick the can.
Is that a motion? Table. Good. Second. Yes.
No. When we came on to two.
Set our next meetings in 2 weeks. Is it?
I'm not here.
Okay.
See, there's the other dilemma.
Well, then let's do it in, whatever. I don't care. Always.
Well, I'm concerned with Adrian. I mean, you're up against a clock.
Yeah, I can go with what the current numbers are as far as revenue, and then we can decide later on, I guess, if there's adjustments that need to be made.
Well, May 5th, you're gonna, the 19th. We still have budget hearings this week of the 19th, right?
No, I'm getting them hopefully done the first full and second full week of May.
Yeah, I'm delayed till last. Because I'm not.
Yeah, there is one. I did add one more Tuesday. 3.
Yeah, you had.
Yeah.
To accommodate mine.
Mine's on Tuesday. 13th.
So I'm not even back in the office till the week of the 12th. Then I have
Well, the 19th's not gonna kill you, is it?
The 20th is the last day for the budget hearings with the departments. I'm not sure when JFS is, when my schedule is. The 8th.
So the 20th, you still have, so you still have budget hearings?
Yeah.
20th?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's 4 days now. I had to add another day.
Okay, well, let's do this on the night, May 19th. We'll research this.
There are specific questions that you three would like me to answer regarding our hearing numbers and the equipment specifically.
I haven't evaluated your numbers you submitted Friday, so you're asking me to comment on something that is delayed getting to me for 2 weeks. I have to vet your numbers. And will they be questions? I don't know. Till I vet it, I don't know. I just noted that each of your funds, with the exception of 2069, has what I believe to be excessive cash balances. 89% cash carryover is excessive. And I think in anybody's calculation. So there's got to be an explanation to that somewhere. I don't know if it's in there or not.
I think people understand that Chuck generally spends more time reviewing the submission than most of the people spend creating the submission. We're not in that category.
Much to my demise.
Well, you don't have a PowerPoint. You really don't have time for that.
I know.
Maybe time's your enemy. Okay, well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
See you on the 19th.
Yep.
We only have two we only have 2 regular business. That's great.
Okay.
Just, you know, having John Marchand.
Next item is Jaga Public Health. Come on up.
Yeah.
Do you want all of these funds from the hearing worksheets to be read?
Well, yeah, I mean, whatever you normally do, I know you have the sheets.
Maybe we'll talk about.
If you could go
I
through,
want you to read out the swimming pool fund in full.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that one again.
yeah, I would like the funds all to be gone through because I have some questions on those funds.
Okay.
All right,
Public Health District submitted their 2026 budget with a beginning estimated cash balance in their 6002 general fund of $665,141.56. They requested revenue in the amount of $2,474,297.56. The Budget Commission will consider $2,465,589. Estimated expenses of $2,615,124.11, leaving an ending balance of $515,606.45. The 6004 Trailer Park Fund has a beginning estimated balance of $13,510.31, requesting revenue in the amount of $4,500, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of $2,500, leaving an ending balance of $15,510.31. Fund 6005 has a beginning balance of $408,888.83, requesting revenue in the amount of $266,900, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of $266,900, leaving an ending balance of $408,888.83. Fund 6008, beginning estimated balance of $94,167.80, requesting revenue in the amount of $19,600. Estimated expenses of $2,000, leaving an ending balance of $111,767.80. Fund 6006011, beginning estimated balance of $225,378.45. As requesting revenue in the amount of $61,500, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of $61,500, leaving an ending balance of $225,378.44. Fund 6018 has a beginning estimated balance of $34,348.66, requesting revenue in the amount of $11,250, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of $7,000, leaving an ending balance of $38,598.66. Fund 6021 has a beginning estimated balance of $464,757.34. Requesting revenue in the amount of $160,000, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of the same, leaving the ending balance the same, $464,757.34. Fund 6023, beginning estimated balance of $100,000, requesting revenue in the amount of $395,500. The Budget Commission will consider $394,500. Leaving an estimated expenses of $394,500, leaving an ending balance of the same, $100,000. Fund 6025 has a beginning estimated balance of $20,690.35, no estimated revenue or expenses, leaving the ending balance the same. 6036 fund has a beginning estimated balance of $48,276.87. Requesting revenue in the amount of $154,500, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of the same, leaving the ending cash balance the same, $48,276.87. Fund 6037, beginning estimated balance of $342,931.19. Requesting revenue in the amount of $732,100, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of the same, leaving the ending cash balance the same, $342,931.19. Fund 6039 has beginning estimated balance of $39,659.75. No requested revenue. Estimated expenses of $2,000, leaving an ending cash balance of $37,659.75. Fund 6040, beginning estimated balance of $64,721.19, requesting revenue in the amount of $43,000, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of the same, leaving the ending cash balance the same, $64,721.19. Fund 6041, beginning estimated balance of $239,722.07, requesting revenue in the amount of $150,000, which the Budget Commission will consider. Estimated expenses of the same, leaving ending cash balance the same, $239,722.07. Fund 6042, beginning estimated balance of $131,393.93, requesting revenue in the amount of $5,000. Estimated expenses of $700, leaving an ending balance of $135,693.93. Total millage for 25-26 is 0.2. And they do get, manufactured homes revenue in the amount of, last year was 1,715.31.
There's, I don't know. Some of this stuff, I'm just, it's more informational because I really couldn't understand what was going on in some of these. So let's talk about for sale of property. So you've got the no, this is on the face sheet. That's the other. I'm just going to go off of our face sheet for now, but maybe I know you did you have a lot of time with this one or?
I spent quite a bit of time.
Oh, okay, because this was in earlier. I didn't get it till because
Well,
of JFS. I didn't get this till.
Yeah, I spent time on it. I got stopped partially.
Okay, so maybe I'll let you because this page is not making any sense to me, and I'm bewildered by what's going on some of that. But I think somebody with a deeper understanding of this needs to tackle that. So before sale property, I thought that program was terminated.
Yeah, so it was terminated.
So what's the 732,000 in revenue in 2026 for something that was terminated in what, 23 or 24?
Yeah, so that's operation and maintenance. Because you can't rename the fund unless it's been inactive.
Okay.
I want to say it's 5 or 10 years now.
So we're changing this to O&M.
Yeah, we just can't change the title.
Okay, I understand.
So, but we just reused it. O&M still, there's minimal revenue at best. It's a voluntary program now for realtor, or I think FHA loans require for sale property inspections. So I should say septic inspections, not for sale property. So we still get some random ones in here and there.
Yeah, I would have preferred a separate fund for one. I mean, you've got 1 million funds anyway. What's one more?
And we can create a new one. We didn't want to bother you guys with another fund with
You're not bothered.
similar.
I think the important thing is the taxpayers should be able to interrogate what a program gets in revenue and what it costs. And when you commingle funds, you confuse them.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Okay.
I didn't realize that's what you were doing. So, I mean, it's not something where it's like, what are you guys doing? I'm not upset about it, but I think there's a transparency issue there and people need to know, that's a controversial point. You know what I mean? The whole thing.
Yep.
The for sale was winding that down, switching to this. And I think people need to be able to, I would need to like hire a CPA and do an audit to figure out what's what with, and if you're still doing some for sale property because of, some government loans are requiring an inspection upon sale that, that's in order to get the mortgage, that's fine.
Yeah, it's only, do you know what it was recently?
I think we did under 20 last year.
Yeah, it's under 20.
Well, the point is, any money going into that fund as a for sale by property would prevent it from going dormant, which would prevent it from being renamed. So it's an inevitable that name is going to exist into the near future.
I mean, we can create a new fund. I don't mind that. We can move the revenue source to there.
Yes, I would much prefer that.
Okay.
So, that's so that's 732. That's basically what you expect for going in.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was kind of laughing. I was going to pull a Chris and look at your trailer park fund and say, you could 10,000% over appropriated. But in all seriousness, like some of these funds, what are we doing? What is?
You mean like the swimming pool fund?
Like the swimming pool fund.
Well, 7,000 in expense. What are you doing? Inspections?
Yeah.
Pools, yeah.
So there's inspections that we do. A lot of these things have been, I think we talked about last time, this money's accumulated over 10, 15 years. I don't have a way to just spend it down. We're not trying to just spend it down. And so
I have a way for you to spend it down.
well, I just don't have anything to spend down that's for good purpose.
We have 95,000 people in this county. That's where all this money comes from.
Yes. No, but I'm saying when I say I don't have a purpose that would say I can go expend this right now and there's a valid reason for it besides creating a reason. So that money's accumulated over I'm guessing 10 to 15 years based on what we talked about last time. we've actually lowered most of our fees, so we're decreasing the revenue and the expenses in most of these funds. So again, I'm not increasing the expense, I'm actually decreasing them in most cases.
So that's a start,
Mhm.
but having a 10 to 15 year, that's not really quite right. In the immunization action plan, you have no expenses.
Yeah, so that grant is no longer applicable to Geauga County. That was a grant that we had through the state. They've made it to the point that we really can't apply for it, nor would we be able to accomplish it. In the last 2 years, if I remember correctly, while we did some of the work, we did not draw in the vast majority of that grant because it put so much an undue burden. Personal opinion, it put an undue burden on the doctor's offices that they didn't really want us in there doing it. So we did what we had to and got out. And last year / this year, because the grant starts in July or September, if I remember correctly. It's a federal grant. We no longer have applied for that because it doesn't make any sense.
So that's good. Here's 20, I just found $20,000 that you don't want because you can't spend it, right?
Yes, we have right now. I have, other than if something comes up with nursing. So as an example, if tuberculosis kept going up, that would be a use that we could put that for. But those are hit or miss cases based on those unfunded mandates by the state, tuberculosis, rabies, things of that
You
nature.
have no estimated expense
I do not.
for the next year.
I do not
But the
think.
whole idea of a budget is to look at what is going to be needed in your crystal ball. So you have nothing.
I do not believe that GPH has any expenses that would meet that criteria that population health is generated for.
So no. So in this particular fund, you not only have 10 to 15 years coverage, you have 1,000 because there is no expense.
The exception would be if a new grant was made available, and then that grant could be used in this fund if it was applicable to nursing. But right now, what I'm seeing across the board, which is probably not a shocker to you, is most of the grants are either dead or they're dying or they're going away. And so, yes, right now I do not have expenses that I could reasonably tell you would be real for that $20,000. Now if that grant is gone for us, GPH.
I guess it's so the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Fund, and then the private water system. So 61.5, these are inspections for private water system. I mean, I guess what I would suggest, so you've got the private water system, you're kind of estimating your expenses at what you're going to charge in inspection fees. Maybe with the swimming pools and private water systems, we do a 5-year waiver of fees to spend these funds now, because why are we holding, those are user funds. So, why are we, I'm trying to think who has a private water system around, Manabrook has a private water system around it, right? So
We don't, I'm sorry.
you don't do that one?
We just do residential homes pretty much. So any more than once it gets commercial goes to EPA, once it gets to a certain size.
Well, that's a residential, that's like an HOA, right? You don't even do those?
No, that'd be too big out of our.
So who are you inspecting? Like, what are these?
So these are.
Wells, private wells?
Pretty much private wells, yeah.
How many private wells are you inspecting for $61,000?
We did, just doing the numbers, and I think we did almost 300 wells with Roman County last year.
So these are the new wells.
New, or work's getting done on them, alteration permits, any type of permit to work on them.
Okay. So so if I put a new well in, what do you charge?
Is it 389?
That was 380 something.
Like I think 100 of it goes to the state, and then we keep it.
I guess one of the ways out of this, and again, I'm not trying to dictate policy to you, but we have to look at your cash balances. Why don't we cut or eliminate for a period of time? Maybe some of these are statutory. You can't. I don't know. I don't know. Some of them, I know that you set a fee schedule, but you're gonna have an extra $250,000 in that fund seemingly forever. So I'd love to see some of those issues addressed. Again, we're not, some of these funds, we're talking small numbers, but $250,000 is not small.
No, no.
And I have a sneaky suspicion that fund has grown so much over time because you've underestimated the number of wells being drilled, and you know, and haven't adjusted your assignment of, or you could, I mean, again, there's leeway with these. You could assign more salary money instead of savings in other areas too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So there's ways to, I guess from my perspective, I'd like you to pay more attention to some of these things. So, you know, this isn't a problem for you either. But
No, and so I thought, because so some of the funds, like the cash balances are probably gonna be a little bit overstated by a small margin, with how I calculate them. Also, and this is nothing that's, this is my problem. So I had to do this the day after my father passed. So some of this was me trying to get the budget to the Board of Health, to then approve it, to then take it to you guys. The expenses are reasonable. Usually I would have had some tick marks and notes for all of you as to why something was higher or lower like I have in the past. I did not have this time. It was much more of a generic budget, and we also are, as we go through things, Dan and I have been lowering fees. We actually just discussed, not even last week, lowering additional fees. And then also, ironically, similar to what you just stated, we're looking at, do we do I don't want to say a rebate, but a buy year for some programs if the revenue is higher than expected continuously. Because what I don't like to see, some of what probably you gentlemen are looking at, is when we look at some of these fees. Swimming pools is an example I'm just going to use because usually Chris asks me every year about swimming pools. I don't have a way to draw that number down. So we're looking at, is there a way to do a rebate year and do a?
There are a number of ways to draw that number down. I think that's Chris's point. You can give it back to the taxpayers, or you could have your APA applied to the court to have that money reverted to another fund where you are burning. So dormancy is an option of no action. Do nothing, it's going to sit there forever. There are mechanisms, though, depending on the life that you expect that fund to remain at that number, where you can do proactive measures to begin the process. Going across the street is probably the quickest approach. Within a few months, you can have the judge rule whether or not that money can be rolled into the general fund or whatever other fund is the appropriate one. Or, as Chris pointed out, give it back to the taxpayers. Those are immediate. You can do those anytime you want. And it's not our job to tell you what you should do with that money.
Yeah.
It's our job to point out the money is sitting there. And I think, but to assert there's nothing we can do, I think is equally flawed. I think my question centers around, and I'm glad a board member is here. I mean, that is, in a lot of instances, we get frustrated when we're dealing with people who are not technically the legal liable party for the budget. This is the board's budget. You guys may prepare it, and I get that. As a township fiscal, I remember preparing it for trustees, and then you have to take them through the steps, and you have to educate them into what they're looking at in order to draw good conclusionary results that don't run afoul with the mission of the program. So I guess my question for the board is, when this was brought to you to determine, was it based on, we got two sets of documents. We got a PowerPoint, which had a kind of a summary form of the numbers. And then we got a spreadsheet with like a gazillion tabs on it. Which of those two data sources did the board use to draw its conclusion of approving the budget, so that I can kind of associate my questions to that document?
They had the Excel document
The series of Excel.
by fund, yes.
Okay.
They don't get the summary. I sent this out to Dr. Henderson, when he said he could attend. Our
Okay.
president was unable to attend.
Okay, so could you pull up the spreadsheet then, the Excel spreadsheet, just so we're all looking at the
Right.
same? Because then I'll have my questions based on the spreadsheet, because that's what you reviewed. So there were a number of tabs on that spreadsheet, and they were feeding into other tabs, and you could drive yourself nuts looking at it. But there was one tab in specific that was called Budget Commission, which I'm assuming was intended for us. was intended to give us the summer.
I think with our new fiscal team, when they send it over, usually we curtail that so you don't get all the fluff that's all around that.
I don't know what's fluff and what isn't.
Yeah, I think they just, so the budget commission tab is just so I can create my, the pie charts that you guys all get.
Well, okay, then I'm confused. So I don't know what to look at unless somebody tells me what.
No, and I apologize. I didn't send this over the sheriff out.
You can see all the tabs at the bottom.
Yes.
And there's one called Budget Commission. So I assume that's one you want Budget Commission to look at, because then you also sent over this, which really is that.
Yeah.
Document.
And again, I apologize. So usually I send this over to you guys. I was out with my father, so our person who was here sent literally the entire thing. Usually you guys would get 6, if you go one tab to the right, the purple tab, you guys get from there and over is what would normally, and this is by fund, what each fund looks like.
Okay.
The rest,
But
sorry.
But then when you present the same document to HDAC.
Yes.
No, you presented this.
Well, sorry. The budget commission tab is what is inside of, that's what I'm looking at. It's what's in here. Because that is what they've done.
Yeah, I understand,
Correct.
but see, I'm concerned with what the public understands your budget to be.
Okay.
That's because we are representatives of the public. And if I'm struggling, I guarantee you the public's struggling. I mean, I don't think there's a mystery there, right? I mean, if I don't even know what tab to go to, because I'm looking at, I'm seeing trailer parks, I'm saying, what am I looking at here? What am I supposed to be concluding? And I see one called Budget Commission. I think, well, that must be for the Budget Commission. And maybe not. But then I compared it to I watched the video of the HDAC meeting, which was also, you are obligated by statute to present the budget annually to the HDAC committee. So if the Board of Health received spreadsheets and then the HDAC received a PowerPoint, which one are we which one is the public vetting?
So when I had done years ago, the spreadsheet is what I had provided to the health commissioner at the time. And when we went to the HDAC, it was give us condensed version that we can take in that time. And that's when I created the.
Okay, would you be opposed to me then going to the condensed version?
I'm fine with that. Yeah, this was just from my viewpoint.
For the benefit of Dr. Hendrickson, I mean, I'm trying to get to what does he understand the budget to be? Because if he thinks it's a certain way, chances are the public thinks it's that way. And then we're all good. And then I'm satisfied because I have some questions about it that somebody should be able to answer. And then that would then benefit the public knowing what exactly the health board is doing and how is the money being spent. And then if there are monies left over, that all can be rationalized in some manner. So let's pop up the PowerPoint because I think we'll get lost in the per fund analysis.
Yeah, and I think that was the reason years ago when I switched to that. It's just a lot to take in if you're trying to do it in an hour even.
I don't disagree, but you have a unique escape clause that other taxing people that get taxes from the public have to go through a process where there's public exposure of their budget. You have, for some reason, the statutes don't require that of you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to advertise to the public. So that puts more burden on us, I believe, because the public doesn't weigh in. They have no opportunity to weigh in unless they attend a meeting. There's no public. I mean, you can go to any township during a 10-day window and you can say, I want to see your budget. And they can scroll through. And people have done it, believe it or not, which kind of mind numbing, but they can scroll through and say, what about that? And you have to answer it. So this is the presentation that was made to HDAC.
Correct.
I assume is the condensed version of your budget.
Correct.
So if we could, let's just skip over some of this, go to that first pie chart. So this is a representation of your entire enterprise.
Correct.
All funds.
All funds.
Not the general funds exclusively.
Correct.
Why would you have transfers in? Because the enterprise is not getting a transfer in.
So when we originally had done this, when I originally did one of these years ago, I didn't have transfers in there. And then the question came up, why don't the expenses match when they look at, like if the board looked at it and they said, your expenses are $4.9 million. We say, well, the transfers in and out we don't include those. The request back then was to include them since they are an expense. So we went ahead and included them in the pie chart.
So as a member of the public, I'm looking at this and I'm going to make the assumption from what I'm reading here that you have revenue of $4.47 million.
I understand what you're saying, yeah.
That's not true. Your
Well, that's-
revenue is $1.3 million less than that.
Yes, and that's where in the first slide number 2, I guess it's not number 1, but it's number 2 on the side there. We break out what those percentages are without transfer. So I put like, transfers in are not included in those numbers. So they have an idea of what it looks like without those, because it does shift the percentages drastically.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's my worry.
So we did that as well. And usually when I talk with the board, the transfers out
Well,
in.
here's the question that I got from somebody.
Mhm.
Is that money coming from Lake? And I went, why would you think that? Well, because it's coming in.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And they're
What
going,
is it? What is the transfers?
it's an internal, it's the sum of the internal transfers into the general fund from the other funds within the enterprise.
Okay.
So it'll be clear in the next slide.
Oh, okay.
It'll be more confusing in the next slide.
And I apologize. I know it says 2024. I did catch that after I sent you guys, but I know last time.
Well, there's another issue with that. If you go to the next one, so here's the expenditures, and you're right, the 2024, as soon as I saw that, I said, well, he must have
That's
copied
my-
it. He
So wait, is
just,
this 26 though?
This was my mistake. After I sent it, I realized I didn't catch that one.
but you'll see transfers out is in there. So that's the total expenditures of the enterprise, not just the general fund. And that would imply that the enterprise is transferring out $1.336 million. And we know that's not true. It's not going anywhere because the ins and the outs match. It's all internal. It becomes zero. So your total expenditures are inflated by 1.336.
Yeah, but it says 3.2.
Forget that. That's wrong as well.
Oh, well,
So the spreadsheet that's inserted there where it says transfers out 3.272, I have no idea where that number comes from.
I apologize. I do not know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because your 4.609 doesn't include that difference. It's that is not a sum. That is somebody typed in the numbers.
Yeah, I apologize.
So I'm looking at this
Something
going,
wrong.
well, my concern is, and so remember 4.6 million in expenditures, go up to revenue, one up. You're only bringing in 4.47 and you're spending 4.6. That's a huge alarm flag for me. That's deficit spending.
Right.
You're $200,000 upside down. Oh my gosh. So what's missing in this equation?
Right.
Beginning balances.
yeah, cash carryover.
Yes, but right now, you are correct though, in terms of we are expecting deficit expenditures if revenue from the state and the feds keep going down.
Well, I can get you $200,000 right now.
From the other funds, you're saying.
Yeah, it's $225,000 you don't know what to do with because you can't spend it.
Mhm.
You get it over there and you're now balanced. So you've solved your problem is sitting there, but I feel compassionate for your board because I looked at this and started looking at it and going, wait a minute, we're 1.36 over here, we're 3.4 over there, we got transfers in and transfers out all in the same set of pie charts. Nothing made any sense to me. It's not the normal presentation of budget material that I'm used to. That's not to say it's not legitimate. I'm just saying, having looked at all of these different people bringing budgets, we usually start with your beginning balance, your revenue, your expenditures, your ending balance. And then we see if it's a burn rate or is it a growth rate. And then if we have these outlier things, then we can kind of dive in and help, resolve any issues. So that's kind of where I kind of went, what are we doing? What are we doing with this? And then the other thing the phenomena that I think that goes into a lot of the public's questions are, if you go to slide 6, and that's the comparative of the different costs of what's going on. And I think the question that I answered for myself once I saw it was, in your transfers out, you went from $29,000 of transfers out as an enterprise, which we all agree now is meaningless, right? Because it's enterprise wide, to a $1.2 million. What is going on that you went $1.2 million heavy from your history in 1 year, and you believe that's going to continue going forward, when in the reality that number's not even existing. That's internal. It doesn't matter because as long as it balances, there's nothing leaving the enterprise, right?
Correct.
The thing I'm worried about, Adam, and I think the public is that the cost of the lake the contract with Lake. Is that what they're paying Lake? That was the question I got. I go, I don't think so because I don't see the relevance in a transfer. You can't transfer out to Lake. Right?
Right, correct.
And that was the question I think you guys even asked of me. Well, that's maybe what they're giving to Lake. And I said, no, you can't transfer to another county. You have to write a check.
Yeah.
You have to physically do an encumbrance.
No, so that
You could do it through contracted services.
That's what
Well, you have to pay for it through a
Right.
check.
Yeah.
You pay for it,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I was gonna mention,
Which would be an expense.
but it wouldn't be a
But it
transfer
would
out.
reflect properly on the budget.
It would be a
But it
different
would-
line item up there.
so this,
But it was-
and so that expense is shown in the contract services line. The contract services line though,
Yeah, up above.
yeah, so the third down line.
Yeah.
So what happened in 2024 was when we had to renew the contract, we needed an addendum put on there. There was confusion on how the addendum got added onto the contract. When the board was approving positions that could be hired, it was then determined after talking to our APA that what should really happen is do what the board already approved, take it to have the health commissioner and have the board president sign that. Then we go ahead and spend against it. So most of the contract with Geauga and Lake was not spent down in 2024. That contract services line, I'm gonna say air quotes, is higher than expected because that's the $1 million we paid back to the public for the House Bill 110 program where the services were not performed, but revenue was collected. So it looks like it actually evens out. It was just ironic at that point that money hit them. The transfers out, because that money wasn't paid back to Lake, the transfers out from those funds were not transferred to the general fund to pay it. And so it somewhat offsets each other where it doesn't look like it's
Yeah, that's
abnormal.
coincidental.
Yes, it's all it is.
So
It's coincidental.
I guess what I'm saying, if you look at this from a 30,000 foot view, I think it would be in your best interest, whatever the board reviews and approves as a budget submission, be the exact same thing that the HDAC board reviews and approves, and the exact same thing that we review and approve. Otherwise, we're all coming at this from three different tiered perspectives, none of which, as it turns out, are truly accurate. Because we're all worrying about $1 million of money that really didn't go anywhere. It stayed within the enterprise. It just got zeroed out. I get what happened. Typically, when you report a single fund activity, if you transfer it out, for example, to the general fund, $500,000, you'd put that as an expense of that fund. And it becomes revenue into the general fund. But when you take it as an enterprise, that revenue cancels that expenditure and it's a zero and you don't think about it anymore. Typically, outs and ins are not relevant on an enterprise level. Unless they're permitted by law, which I don't think we're agreeing that that's probably not true. The other thing that I'm concerned about is I know it was discovered within the last 12 months that you are actually a combined health district. And that is subject to it based on an agreement with the city, correct?
And I should say combined for those listening is not Lake and Geauga.
No,
Combined
I
is-
understand.
Yeah,
Combined within Geauga.
correct, yeah.
It's the city has an obligation to have their own health district unless they choose under contract to combine with the counties.
Correct.
And then there's a new set of rules that happen and a new set of checks and balances. I just want to make sure that we have a full understanding of what those obligations are. So, and I asked them if they have a copy of the agreement. We don't. I would like to get a copy of that
I can
agreement.
get you a copy.
Okay.
Yeah.
For sure. it has-
Recently discovered.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm not criticizing that. I understand that's new. But just so you know, there are other obligations that go with that combined initiative. As you probably know, there's a different set of laws. And I want to make sure we follow those.
Hmm.
And it involves my office getting a notice by the city on June 1st, July 1st. June 1st or July 1st? I just want to make sure I get it so that I can go, yep, got it. I'm not in default.
June 1st.
By June 1st. So we need to make sure we've never done that before, but I don't think we ever knew we were combined before, right?
I was unaware of it.
Yeah. So, and that's fine. You can't be responsible for something that no one knew, including the general public. But now we know. So now we've got to do it.
And that's from the city, you said, correct?
So I'm not going to interpret the law for you. So
Well, it's the chief executive of the city, which
whoever that is.
I don't know if that in charge, if that's a mayor or the city manager.
It's paragraph F of
It's,
Remind me,
29, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
3709.
37.
28.
Yeah, and I had a call with, Chrissy Ryan is on the call. She represents the Budget Commission, and because this is new water for us, I mean, we never looked at you through the lens of a combined health. I mean, I don't know if it does change the budgetary requirement. I don't know. I mean, so I had a series of telephone calls with her. You know, she's the one that, you know, confirmed, yeah, there are some things that are still the same as far as appropriation measures and those types of things. So some of 5705 still pertains to you. But there are also some other things defined in law that may accept you out of that. And I want to make sure that we are aware of it, at least that I am, my office, because we have to know what to expect. And since, you know, clearly I have to expect something from the city by that cutoff date, I want to make sure we don't miss it. And then somebody comes to me and says, well, where is it? Why did you act? And we had to have it. So I think it would help clear a lot of the gray area up if we all are working off the same set of papers. That just, to me, I don't like confusion, and I get confused when I start seeing tabs, and
I mean, we can go back to the spreadsheet because the spread, I mean, so I create the PDF.
you could just use the budget document, budget rolled into New World.
We could, I mean, I usually do, and we can, yeah.
I mean,
I can print that out the system.
Isn't that what the other entities are using? They're using the budget tool right within New World, and it gives you the 2 years looking back. I mean, yours doesn't technically have 2 years looking back. It has 1 year. But I have the data, so I can go into New World and see what your 2023 expenditures were. So from my perspective, there's no big deal. I don't know, when was the last time you fired up New World, Chris? Last week, maybe?
Oh, no, it would be last century.
Okay.
So
So
getting alerts
That was a
because the,
rhetorical question.
you know, all the, yeah, so outdated.
you too, Jim, I'm sure you're logging in every day, right?
I have actually done, unlike some others.
So, you know, from that perspective, we can fix it, but I think the public should see the trend. That's why they want to include that.
I mean, honestly, I'd rather go back to that because that's how we started this 8 years ago, at least now is when I started that, and it was every fund. Then it was condensed to only the general fund, and then it was condensed to a summary, and that was at the behest of whoever was in charge at the time. I'm fine going back to the spreadsheet, the New World system, which is equates to that. I'm fine going back to that. There's more information in there that at least they say I saw it. I mean,
I think, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that goes with passing a budget, and
yes.
boards in general are only as good as the data they get. I mean, certainly Dr. Henderson's not going to dig through New World. I mean, I would expect him to. I don't know. I don't think even has the ability to.
No.
And so it's unfair to them to say, well, we looked at, you know, three numbers on a sheet of paper and made a decision, when in fact, all the other numbers are very relevant, or at least some combination.
And we give them the spreadsheet because the other thing the spreadsheet does is we try to denote what is going to, so if it's an unusual charge, being that maybe year to year it's not consistent, we try to denote next to it what that charge is for. At least maybe the majority of that charge. Because for the board to look at, I'm going to use for sale property example, the O&M program though, and they say, why is a huge amount of money going towards lab fees? Like, why is lab fees increasing exponentially? Well, the reason for that is every time we do a sample for certain systems, half that charge that we make goes right to the lab for water testing, or for testing of that sample, I should say, sample testing. And so that's why the board gets that Excel one. The it's not PDF, but the PowerPoint one is a condensed version for the HDAC. Obviously, so they can go through it and see what they need to in a condensed time factor, put it that way. We are looking, though, at, which you mentioned before, deficit spending. And part of that is due to losing grants, which everyone's doing right now. It's not like it's universal to the health department or unique to the health department. We also have another grant that was supposed to restart up in 2027. It was a 5-year grant. It does not sound like that's restarting. That's about $150,000. That's the Workforce Development Fund. And then also,
What account number?
that one is, it's like the very last one. It's 6041. So that grant will likely go through 2027. I think it's November, if I remember correctly. But at that time, that grant, to the best of our knowledge, is not going to continue. That will be done. And that grant is only there to support salaries for staff. That is the only purpose of that grant. It's salary retention
Yeah, but
and similar.
But you're sitting at $239, almost $240,000
Right. When we-
cash balance. So again, that would be an important point for the board to know when testing if that is a necessary carryover, right?
Yes. And
Especially when you're only burning 150 and you have well more than 100% in reserves. But if it's coming to an end in 2 years, that may be a mitigating circumstance for us to consider.
yeah, and we're waiting, once the expenses are posted to the contract, that number will come down for estimated 239. The other thing that we're looking at right now is our FET grant, which is it is sorry, it's PHI on this one, 6021. That grant, we were just notified the feds are cutting a portion of it and the state is making up the difference. I can't imagine the state is going to continue making up a difference from the feds year after year after year.
Again, you've got $465,000 in cash carryover and you're burning 160 a year. So you have 3 years before you feel it.
Yeah, and so
No, it's not. I don't, in a world without budget commission.
Yeah.
You've got 3 years before you feel it.
That's only if this is wrong.
That's right.
Right now, it's not wrong. This is real money.
yeah,
You're supposing that they are going to take the money away,
correct. Yes.
okay? But you've not indicated that to us, nor in your PowerPoint.
So we just got most of this information not even a week ago. We were notified that the state was taking the grant was cut. Then everyone, of course, said, hey, what do we do? And the state said, actually, we're going to make up that difference for now. They did not say it ends in 6 months. I don't know if it's 6 months, 12 months. They just said, we're doing it for now. We also are being called down for the WIC program Monday in Columbus. I've got to go down there. They also want a budget discussions. Not unexpected. I mean, it is where things are going. But these are,
So about a year and a half ago, several school districts came in, gave us a budget with deficit spending showing that House Bill 1 would catastrophically deplete
Yeah.
their ability to sustain life. House Bill 1 never passed, just so everybody knows. So we cannot deal, it's no different than putting a levy on the ballot that hasn't yet passed. Right? You can't count on something that isn't for sure. So whatever somebody might do, while it may have context and explanation, it doesn't have any merit as far as justification.
Right.
And until it occurs, then we have to factor. And that's an unfortunate fact of science when it comes to
reality.
dealing with money. And
Yeah.
you can't predict a loss. You have to either be experiencing or you don't get that ability. Because too many things change and too many things are in flux today.
well, and that's why I don't, even like the HDAC, I said, they asked about the deficit. I didn't say like the sky, I told them the sky is not falling. We shouldn't be running for the hills. It's just the reality of as we lose certain funding. And like you said, now tomorrow they could say, hey, we're redirecting this funding to this, and now you get it back with a different program of some sorts. They used to do that with tobacco. They did it with vaccinations. It's possible. We just don't know. But I thought it was worth noting because I had it in my notes to mention it. But again, it's stuff that we're getting. Honestly, it feels like day-to-day updates at this point. The other thing that we're looking at is tuberculosis cases. Those are on the increase. It's usually legal immigrants that tend to be some of those. I don't want to say all of them, but some. And then measles cases as well, which we have a duty to do things with. So again, the sky is not falling. I think we are drawing down when we can. Some of these balances will come down when the contract between Lake and Geauga is paid.
I'm sorry, not drawing down anything. You are hoarding cash in the worst of ways. You're taking money from taxpayers, but you're also taking money from fee services when you are going to expend, let's just pick on infectious waste, 6,000. You have estimated revenue of $19,000. You're going to spend $2,000, but you have $111,000 in cash.
Yes,
That's 50 years worth.
I do understand that. Yes.
So I am so out, and I'm outraged that you have so many funds that have excess amounts of cash. and you are not showing a willingness to return the monies in either strategy, either reducing fees or not collecting the tax levy. I've identified, not with I'm not slashing, but I am certainly cutting down to reasonable balances. I've identified $1.4 million in cash that you're sitting on that can go back to the taxpayers. But you only collect about $550,000, $584,000 from taxpayers.
Yeah,
From the back of my mind, I'm saying no collection of levy for 26. Zero. You're still going to have plenty of cash in each and every one of these funds, but it would be prudent for your budget purposes, in case of something happening, you'll have plenty of cash because you can move money around fairly easily, because you have been to the tune of $1.3 million.
within, yes. And so again, I am just to reiterate, some of these funds are going to be drawn down through the contract with Lake because the money comes out of those and it goes in. When I created this budget, I used the cash balances that were available at that time.
Yeah, but that's not represented in your budget. The drawdown is not demonstrated in your expenditures. That would have been an expenditure.
Yes, so that's where, correct. So the 2024, most of those fees to Lake were not paid.
I'm talking about your 2026 submitted budget,
Yes,
right? So to Chris's point, in infectious waste, that number is not being drawn down more than $2,000. That is your total expense. If you had a transfer out of 50,000, it would be $52,000 of expense.
So, yeah, okay, yeah. So I see that. So the question would be, which we can do, and I understand your standpoint, is if we can take that and ask the courts to either put it back in the general fund, we can lower fees, which we've been lowering fees across the board, with the exception of food, which has to cover its costs. It's the state formula. And then the other thing we're looking at doing is taking any excess revenue that we get in programs. We're starting with operation and maintenance. That money would then be taken and used to help those with less income, I'm going to say it's less. It's lower than usual income. So 300% of the poverty line, they can apply for, in essence, funding through the health department. Any excess revenue we get through late fees and whatnot will then be used for that. That way it does not accumulate over time.
Well, Adam, do you disagree that you only have two funds with deficit spending? Your general fund and your alcohol, tobacco, and other drug fund.
Yes.
Other than that, every other fund is either self-sustaining or is growing.
Yes, that would be an accurate statement.
I think that is the bone of contention.
Okay.
And you could use those funds that are growing to offset the deficit spending in your general fund. And I don't think anybody here would object to that. We don't want you to deficit spend, although none of this takes into consideration what your cash balance was at the beginning. You off the top of your head, what your beginning cash balance was in your enterprise?
So everything but the general fund?
Everything.
Everything.
The enterprise. 3.5 million.
Yeah,
That's very close.
3.5, 3.7, somewhere there off the top of my head.
So the fear people have when they hear deficit spending is, we're in trouble. We got to stop. We need more money. We go to a levy.
Right.
Well, but reality is, if you're deficit spending 200,000 a year, right, and you've got 3.7, give you the benefit of the doubt, 3.5 million in carryover cash, you can go 17. You're better at these years. 170 million years or something. I don't know.
17 years.
There you go. 17 years. You can go 17 years at that burn rate and be unaffected, and not cut one service, not have to go to one taxpayer and ask for another buck, nothing. And so that is a component of a budget that is vital, right? Because without that information, you would make one decision. With that information, you go, whoa, time out, not a problem here. We expect it, and we have 17 years to pull the nose of the airplane up before we hit the ground. That's what I think budgeting is. Budgeting is a predictor. It's not it shouldn't be painted as a fear factor, which I think A lot of people go to get into that mode because it's very effective. People get, oh my gosh, we're going to lose all this. Yeah, we'll approve another levy. And I don't want to do that to our taxpayers, especially right now. Right now, our taxpayers are screaming at us. No more tax. And we've got to listen. If we don't, we're going to get hung out to dry, and rightfully so. And the only way we can do that is by focusing on numbers again. And you tell us, and if you need it, that's great. If you can't justify that need, we have no other option.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think, I mean, the goal would be, we're going through with our APA right now, the ability to how to do it, but if we could transfer some of this dollars out of those funds and into the general fund, as an example, we're trying to take any excess revenue we have and put it so that homeowners can get it back for the operation and maintenance program as a.
You are doing that now with your APA?
Yeah. So
on which funds?
Right now it would be out of the for sale property fund. That's what we started with. So it's the I don't want to speak on the fund number.
Well, it's a 6037. Why would you do that in that fund when that's the fund you're commingling your O&M program with?
Well, so that's where the majority of the for sale property operation maintenance money goes into. We also have a non-compliance fee that goes in there for those that are not in compliance with state rules.
Yeah.
The goal is to have, what I don't want to have happen is, let's say I fall off a cliff tomorrow and the next guy comes in or girl comes in and says, hey, if we only charge $5 more per resident, we can make another X dollars. We can then raise salaries by Y. So the thought of this is, if the program itself costs $10, I'm just using a small number, $10, anything above that $10-ish mark would then go back to the public through.
I've heard that before, and I applaud you for stating that. Here's what I am worried about with the public. The public wants to see how much are you getting and how much are you spending. And if they're seeing a profit, they're going to have a problem with it. O&M should not be a profit center.
Correct.
Right? It should be, and there's a lot of controversy about the O&M program, as you well know. And we cannot make this thing a moneymaker.
If you're having excess funds that you're going to use for people who can't afford the permit fees, then that's got to be a line item. And to our point before, you need to have an O&M fund, and you need to have your income and expenditures, and then you need to separate that out in your budget. Hey, we're putting, late fees or whatever, non-compliance fees into this line item, and we have an expenditure line item, not on this sheet, but in your budget of, people who are under that poverty level, so that, they're in compliance and you can do those inspections. I guess, to me, and again, it's not our job to dictate your operations, but in providing suggestions, there's different suggestions we've provided to try to spend down some of these. Assigning more salary money to some of these funds is going to have the effect of bolstering your general fund, because instead of paying all your salaries out of the general fund, somebody who's doing well inspections, what percentage of their salary can you pay out of that fund? Arguably you could pay a lot of it, because you need that person, whether they're spending, 20% of their time doing it or not. You need a whole person, you need a whole healthcare package. So yeah, I think there's leeway within, those salary expenditures to use some of these funds to pay salaries, and then that's going to provide a relief valve on your general fund.
And so we usually use time studies is what we have. So everybody has to put their time into a thing called it's called Health District Information System, HGIS. We then take that and look back kind of like 1 year. You're always looking back 1 year. And so Dan and his team and I take that and we say, okay, you spent, let's say 70% on wells as a random number. We can charge 70% of your time on average to wells. That's how we create the fee. So the fee is not based off 100%, it's off that 70. And then that's where the transfers in and out come in, is that the transfer out from that fund would be whatever the actual expenditure is for that month or that quarter. It transfers out into the general fund, which then pays the contract.
But how did this runaway train happen? That can't work.
I'm not a fan of that, and I'll tell you why. Because as a member of the public, I want to see them paid out of that fund, that percentage.
Okay.
Then I know what that fund costs me.
Okay.
If you transfer, it becomes goo. How do you track a transfer?
Well, so we supply the backup, which on our system shows
you do.
Paid. Yeah.
But the public looking at your budget or your financials can't see, oh, wait a minute, you had a salary line item in that particular fund and you burned off that much that's one component of cost, right? versus a transfer out, it could be for salaries, could be for anything, could be for a bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
That's where I have the rub is
Yeah, we all have restricted funds. We pay some of the salary out of those funds.
a good example is ARPA, right? People wanted to transfer ARPA money out to go take care of some other, no, you pay for it out of the ARPA fund. Because when I could report that to the feds, here's what we did.
Mhm.
And it's not it's like an indirect variable, you point to the pointer, which points to the actual event. No, that's so complicated. We don't need to make it that hard for the public. The public has a right to see this stuff when they're hurt, especially when they're hurting.
Yeah,
And
we
that's
can
what
do
we
that
gotta
then.
do.
We can pay it by fund. I mean, that's.
Yeah, you can just create a line item. You could burn off some of that money right now.
We've been trying to, well, I understand it does acclimate or it accumulates more dollars. We've been trying to lower all the fees for what you said is the public. When they come to our meetings at night, they're in the same boat. They're like, this went up, this went up, this went up. They don't understand that, like, when the property tax went up, we didn't receive more money. A lot of them thought we did. They thought this was funded through somewhere else in the county. Operation maintenance. I say this, operation maintenance. So we're trying to reduce those fees. The thought process is if this, so Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, WPCLF, that's what this generic state, this is what the program is, where you can give money back kind of as a grant or as a rebate, for lack of better words, to help people that have lower income. We'd like to do that with other funds too. So if we have additional, like, swimming pools, which is always brought up,
Does that show, can we go back to the,
it's not in here yet because the board approved it Wednesday of last week. And then we're waiting for the APA to say it meets all the criteria.
so it's not in your budget anyway?
It's not in yet. No, they would help draw those funds, the balances down, but I couldn't put it here because the board hadn't
You're
approved
not
it.
gonna spend $1 million on this idea.
Not $1 million, no, because there's some funds, I mean, this is just for, I mean, I'm sure you understand this, but, as an example, the public health infrastructure, the 602 one, that $65,000, the rounding, that's not a service to the public per se, so that would not get drawn down. It'd be based on the fund, like swimming pool, potentially yes, sewage, potentially yes.
So here's the great thing about that fund. You've got $464,000 in the bank.
Yes,
Your income estimated is about 160 grand. Your expense is 160 grand. It's a wash.
yes,
You don't need that money in the bank.
yes.
So I'm allocating $400,000 to go back to the taxpayer. You don't need that money.
Yeah, so
You're not allocating any of it back to the taxpayers except for those few indigents. And how much is that going to be in your wild guess?
well, so this is a grant too. So this does the Perry nuclear power plants, and then
Just answer my question.
if we spent 10 to 15,000 a year,
Why are you even worried about
tuberculosis?
$15,000 when you're sitting on $500,000?
Yes, I don't disagree. I mean, this is dollars that have been accumulated over a very long time, not like yesterday. So I understand. We've been trying to look at these things. We started with the House Bill 110, which we paid back $1 million. Then we started going to program to see if we missed other things. Because when you find one, and then we found a second where fees were too high, we're going through line by line and fund by fund to figure out where else maybe something was.
I found 14 funds that can help the taxpayer.
Yeah, and
They all have too much money.
And I'm not opposed at all to if we go to the court and ask them to have the authority to transfer that back to general fund to then turn it into ability for the public to save money.
Okay, we do need to move this process along. I would at the very least suggest, because this is a public document, it is wrong. It's seriously wrong. It needs to be corrected, even though it's passed. It's to be updated so that it becomes a proper document. It's the taxpayer.
Yes.
That's my first concern. My second concern is you have so much cash. I would like to know your opinion. If you did not collect any levy money this next year, what would the impact be for our county residents?
If we were permitted to transfer the money out of the other funds into the general fund, I would have to look line by line to see what that would look like. Assuming I'll know more when Monday hits and figure out what the state's doing with these grants. I'll know more then. We also don't know if they're going to. We did have a grant where the state just cut funding in the middle of the week. So there's other programs like that. So I'd have to know more based on what funding stream is going for a lot of these things.
But your budget submission is a snapshot at a particular moment in time.
Correct.
We don't know what's gonna happen on Monday, but this is what's happening right now.
Yes.
And this reflects an incredible amount of cash that is unnecessarily being held by the health. You gotta admit,
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. If I can go back and look at that, then yes, I can put the best case scenario together as to what we'd be able to do.
You want to table this, Chris? Give them time to rework it. Fix it. Correct it.
yeah, we're gonna be meeting in a couple of weeks anyway. At the very least, begin to correct this, because it's a public document.
I'm worried that HDAC. I'd like everybody to get a fresh public document. And I think that's,
Yeah, I know you guys are in for your patience, but I just gotta ask about the private water fund.
and let's talk about the swimming pool fund.
Now, we already talked.
Oh,
about
okay.
it. So like in 23, you estimated your revenue at 83,000. And you took in 666,000, which at your permitting would be 1,900 wells worth of
That was part of it.
drilled. So what's going on?
That was the saltwater contamination for Parkman Wells.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that was just an EPA pass through.
Okay, and then the part of that leak into 24, you still had 332,000.
It did.
Okay, so that's a total aberration.
Yeah.
And just to clarify real quick, the expenditure pie chart, the date was wrong. That is, I mean, the transfers out, the pie chart itself, those numbers are correct. It was just that transfers out line versus 3.2. It shouldn't have been. And I apologize again.
Well, transfers out should not even be on that pie chart. That skews all the percentages. That's an enterprise.
And I can take that out if you guys would like.
I'm not, it's nothing that I'd like. You're telling the public as an enterprise, you transferred out $1.3 million. You didn't. You transferred within 1.3 million. That's an outwardly facing report, not an inwardly facing report. If that were just a pie chart of the general fund, you would show a transfer in as revenue. But it's not. If you take the whole enterprise, your revenue into the general fund was offset by expenditures and all the other funds. It's a zero sum game.
Yeah, moving forward, I will.
What I'm proposing is your $4.6 million of estimated expenditures
Yes.
is inflated by 1.3367760. Do you believe that's true or not?
With that,
As an enterprise?
yes, as an enterprise, yes.
Because you didn't spend that money. It didn't go anywhere. It stayed within the enterprise.
Yes.
So there is no such thing as a transfer in and out for an enterprise. It's only in a fund.
So we have the Excel spreadsheet like you saw to have those where the board looked at it and said, on here you have 4.6, why on here is it 3 point whatever?
You shouldn't have 4.6 on your spreadsheet.
Well, I have to budget somewhere those transfers. So I do the in and
Right.
out.
Yes, but those are per fund. So in your general fund, you'll have an inbound transfer in.
Yes.
In your other funds, you'll have a transfer out. When you add up all the transfer outs, it'll equal your transfer in.
Correct.
Done. But when you show it as an enterprise, your general fund will not show $489,900 of total other expenses. That could be mixed over a bunch of funds. You took all of your other expenses in all the
Yes.
funds. So why wouldn't you do the same thing with transfers? See what I mean?
Yeah, I can.
You can't roll up everything and then pick two things out and use them as unique numbers because it's skewing your number. You're really a $3 million enterprise. 3.3, my calculation. Not a 4.6.
Well, again, if we use the sheet that the board, for example, approves, when they approve our budget, they have to approve the transfers in and out. That budget is this. That's what
But
they
you
approve.
assigned it as being revenue and expenditures for the enterprise, not the board. The board just wants to know how much you're transferring.
Well, do I not need approval on the budget? So to transfer in and out, do I not need that approval in the budget?
Yes, you do, but
Okay.
between funds. You're not reporting this between funds. You're reporting it as all funds.
Okay, I mean, I can take that
So
out.
for example, if $1 million went into the general fund, and then for some reason, $1 million went into your private water system fund. Fund-based, you report $1 million in each fund. Enterprise-wide, you got $2 million of money, right? Now, if you transferred that $1 million into the general fund, you would show, I got $2 million in, and I transferred in another $1 million. You somehow poof, $1 million appeared. It's not reporting right. Because you're reporting your transfers in as an enterprise and your transfers out as an enterprise, and they should not be reported. They could be line items in the funds, but they're not reported as a whole. It'd be like on our financials that we do for the state audit. We don't include transfers in and out summarily of all funds because it'll inflate our number. So you can just sit there and spin transfers all day long and build a bigger revenue because they keep adding.
So when we do our financial statements, we do include the transfers in and out. The only thing we don't do is
report by fund. This is not
no, we do
reported.
special revenue, we do general fund. We separate those out.
Well, if you do, then you're skewing the number.
Well, that's how we have to report, as we've been told. Is that way by the state auditors. They do our, I mean, they do our this year too.
I'm just telling you, I report our financials every year as a county, and we don't increase our revenue by the amount of our transfers within our organization. They're reported, but they're not increasing our revenue. Yours are increasing your revenue and you're increasing your expenditures.
Yeah,
So-
it's all a phantom number.
It's not real.
Ensure expenses and show your transfers out.
Or show it as a footnote.
Yeah.
Included in this revenue was a total amount of transfers within the enterprise of 1.3 million. It's one number.
Yeah, well, I think the bigger problem is you're using transfers instead of just paying people out of some of these funds, and I think you could
Yeah,
be
and
a
that's,
little more aggressive in
Well,
your
that-
salary assignment too.
so this is our state audit. This is how we're required to report. So we do transfers in and out, and they're broken out separately.
Yeah, they're broken out separately.
So that's how it would look the same thing here. So we have transfers in, we have
You're
transfers
not
out.
supposed to transfer that to your presentation as income.
And I don't mind taking that out in the future. I did not know.
It's not the future. You need to do this now, because this means you are providing a fraudulent report that shows artificial income and artificial expense.
I would characterize more specifically.
No, the state auditor will see this and
Well,
ask, what are you doing?
I'm worried about the public. If the public looks at this and says, wow, our health district cost us 4.6 million. No, it's not costing 4.6. It's roughly 3.1, 3.2. We're inflated by $1.3 million.
Okay, so
Because-
you guys want tables.
Well, yeah, I either table it or I'm a no, and I don't think that's good for them right now, judging. from-
Okay, so I would approve it with suggestions that for moving forward, create a fund for the O&M so that we have a real cost center and you budget for salaries and benefits and find, excess fees and how you're spending those for people under the poverty level, that you have a budget that makes that a real cost center. Okay, that's my suggestion. Well, that's what I would like to see, and I think I can. I'm not trying to dictate how you run. I'm just dictating how you do your budget, which I think I can do. So that's what I'd like to see on that, Mark. And then I'd like to see some of these funds drawn down in the future with maybe more aggressively paying some salaries out of there and some expenditures or waiving fees for a period of time. That's just me. That's on one person. So I would approve your budget with those strong suggestions moving forward. But you guys want to table it. What do you, other than him fixing the PowerPoint, what do you want to see in the next 4 weeks?
I would agree with Chris that I would like to see this corrected to properly reflect to the public the exact revenues and expenditures that the enterprise is generating. Because you've chosen to show it by enterprise. The alternative to that is if you want to show transfers, break it out by fund. Then transfers become relevant, right? Because people can do math. But for simplicity, especially for HDAC, I understand why you're breaking it into one little bite-sized piece. The other thing is I want to see this agreement with the city so that I can fully understand what obligations my office needs to expect. So which made you into a combined health district. As far as the spending of the funds, I don't want to speak for Chris. I think if your intention is to either move the money or spend the money, we need that memorialized somewhere. We need to know how much, how fast, because as Chris pointed out, the numbers you're describing to me don't match the numbers that you have. They're far less. So we're not going to come every year and say, oh, you're bleeding off $100 a year. We're going to go for 300 million years. We need to see what the progress is and when to expect it. At least I do, in order to be satisfied with that. I get some of this is a
And
bit
how
of a
soon do
mystery.
you want the corrected PowerPoint?
Yeah, I would think you
We're
would
gonna
want
come
to
back
do
in
that.
what, 4 weeks?
I mean,
Our
that's-
next one?
That's not, I mean, I can do that today. And again,
Well,
I appreciate with the transfers out, that's how I've been reporting it for years with you guys. So I was just doing this. I'm
We
doing
had
the same.
problems with these PowerPoints for more than 1 year. I went back over last year's and there was some frustration because there was confusion as to what the board approved. We had the same kind of conversation, Adam. And I believe you had just come back from the ER. You had it at the new building. You had just come back from the ER with an
I was about
infection.
to go to the ER, yeah.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
infection. And so again, I didn't deep dive and that's on me. That's why I'm like I
Yeah.
got to get this fixed now. It's burned more than 1 year and we need to go back to doing it the way everyone else is reporting it. We're not approving enterprise-wide reporting this way.
That's fine. And I can make that change.
Don't you have a copy of the agreement between Chardon and Jaga?
I believe I do.
And can we get it? How do we get it
It was
to?
rescued from one of the trustees' attics.
I don't know.
Yeah, we have a copy somewhere.
Like they found the
I think-
Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Or
we-
separate
we-
parts.
The parchment is still on parchment paper. How old is it, by the way?
It's like 2002.
Yeah,
So
it's not as old as you think.
the problem, the problem, and we went through all this because the former Board of Commissioners was involved in the silliness of rent. The problem was we were forced to become a joint district. The village of Chardon became a city in the 2000 census.
Which changed it.
And then about 18 months thereafter, somebody figured out, oh, wait a second, that creates an issue here. So there was an ordinance from the city back in like 2002, I think, and a resolution from the commissioners back in 2002, which we had, but nobody could find the agreement. And then there was one of the trustees had the HDAC files, 2 boxes of files in his garage. And we found the agreement. He found the agreement in there. That was the only place we could find. Nobody else had this thing.
Next to his golf cart?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Next to his Corvette.
Or
No, wait a minute,
That's right.
Corvette and golf.
That's
That's right. Yeah. So it was found and we do have it. Although, Chrissy's been looking at some of this stuff. I mean, there's and we don't need to get into this today or even if we table this till the 19th, but moving forward, when I talk about those legacy issues, I have a bad feeling that we've been doing your budgeting wrong since 2002.
Correct.
I have a very bad feeling.
Well, yeah, and I'm not looking to
Yeah,
turn on a dime here. I
No.
get it.
but we
But
gotta look at.
We got to start moving in.
Correct.
Yeah, so,
This was utter chaos until these 3 guys took over and Lake stepped in to save us. Utter chaos.
I mean, we'll make the changes you guys want. I mean, I'm not arguing with the changes. We will make the changes, whatever it needs to be to reflect it appropriately.
Changes. Well, I need to provide an accurate picture. This is not accurate. This is what is the record right now, and it's wrong.
I will take the transfers out. Yes. I mean, the expenses and the revenues, if you take out that line, those are actual transfers actual expenses and revenues to the best of our knowledge. Those are not incorrect. It is that transfer. And again, I apologize. That one that says $3 million, that must have been a copy and paste that I did not.
Here's an
That's my
opportunity
fault.
to provide an accurate transcript for the record.
Yeah.
This becomes history. That's very important.
yeah, sorry.
I would ask before our next meeting, you determine whether monies can be transferred from these various entities. Because at our next meeting, I will very much want to make a motion to suppress any levies for this next year.
I would say, let's get the PowerPoint fixed and if we'll look at it at our meeting on the 19th. And if the power, let's get that back out to the board and the HDAC and the trustees. So that, hey, this is a more accurate picture of what's going on here. But, okay, so when are you guys making a motion to table until the 19th?
Awesome.
Second.
Can you guys
Sorry.
hear me? I just have
Yes.
one. Is waiting to the 19th too late for the county because they levy a tax within the county's budget? Is the 19th too late for them to have their stuff all approved and over to Adrian for those purposes? Because
Well,
I think,
yeah, that's a good question.
Generally, they're on a separate certificate. We've always treated them, and
They're on
and that
the
might be what we're doing it wrong, but we've always,
okay,
Resolution for the.
But there is
Yeah.
also another time issue that Chrissy is aware of. It's 45 days prior to the
when the county has to adopt its budget, any departments that
well,
get a
actually,
cut of a tax levy?
yeah, it's hinged on trustees and municipalities approving their budget. It's a 10-day prior to that, which is the public notice period. And then 45 days before that. That's the deadline we have.
so that's what, July?
It's like the end of May.
And it's
Because
it's really more it's a
I took July
requirement.
20. Go ahead, Chrissy.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a requirement of the department here, the health district, to get that information to the subdivision that levies a tax for them, which in this case is the county. So I just want to be mindful that if you guys are waiting until the 19th to get that all in order, that's jiving with the county schedule as well. And it very well might. I just wanted to note that.
I took July 20th, backed up 10 days, which is public notice, backed up 45 days, which is the time that the city has to notify with the governing entities have to notify whether they do or do not need money. That's how that statute works. So putting 45 days before about the 10th of July is the end of May. Did I miss something or is that about right?
No, I mean, they're not getting the JFS thing until May 19th, because we tabled them
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, so
And
that,
they-
and if,
They have a budget hearing on the 20th.
Adrian said that he could live with that. I just want to make sure we're also compliant with
Yeah.
URC.
if that worked for JFS, then if that timing works for the county and it's within the 45 days, or I'm sorry, outside of the 45 days, then I think it should be fine. So long as what you get on the 19th is what you need.
Yeah, and I mean, and we're having the meeting, just so we're clear, we're having the meeting on the 19th. We're not going to get this on the 18th at 11 o'clock at night. Right? I can't deal with that anymore. I got to be honest with you guys. I had the worst weekend of my life trying to drive a car and read budgets. There was nothing more fun.
I mean, the PowerPoint, making that modification is an hour.
Okay,
Well,
we're asking for your submission to the
Can you
Budget
take
Commission
a copy of
staff
the agreement?
by the end of day, May 12th.
that'll give us 7 days. Good. Perfect.
And a copy of the agreement.
Yeah, and a copy of the agreement. I want to make sure
Yeah.
there's nothing in that
I'll try to
agreement.
dig that up.
It's
I think
shocking.
I have that
Like,
at my
yeah.
fingertips.
Does their board and HDF have to see it then?
Before we do?
Well, that's
That's up to
a
them.
question for Chrissy, I think. I think they're right.
I mean, you're changing some stuff, even though it's a correction.
We'll deal with that.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
not.
So you're gonna have the submission to the Budget Commission staff by, what did I say, 5/12 end of day?
Yeah.
And then Chuck's made a motion to table this till May 19th, our May 19th meeting. Is there a second?
Yeah, I can't second. I made the motion.
Okay. So moved and seconded. Or to table, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll see you back here.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Get out of this hot box.
It is modern heck in here, isn't it?
Yeah, what's going on?
I
thought they fixed the AC.
Yeah, they did. We opened a window. It's called winter. Okay, we've got, anything else do we have other than public comment?
You got stuff.
Did we have
You've got more stuff?
3 yeses? Did you vote yes?
Yeah, I
or no?
voted yes on the
Did
table.
you?
Yeah.
You did?
Myself wanted to call. Can you call me at the end of the week?
Yeah, you have, give me your number. Just write it down here, so.
216-215-2040.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, okay, we have Russell Township Amendment number 3.
They had a decrease to their 3903 fund, OPWC. New debt service fund total is 16,666.66. New 2025 certificate total is 14,711,279.05, and appropriations do not exceed.
I'll make the motion. It's my turn. So moved.
I'll second.
Yes.
Verify that. Can't read this. He's a doctor. I can't read it.
Okay, Parkman Township
She's right
Amendment
out
1,
there.
we finally got their numbers, huh?
Just ask him before he goes.
Well,
Verify some.
did, we
What?
we got their numbers, but had some questions and did
He
not
never got back
hear
to
back.
us.
So
No, I'm here at the meeting.
we're
Going with
we're assuming that this is good and we're,
So we have the beginning cash figures is what we have, but she showed her total fund ending balances as her other source revenue, which would include beginning tax and other source revenue.
so she was basically doubling her revenue
Right.
in her.
So we,
Do a transfer out?
No. Thankfully, no. So
Give a dog a bone. Give a dog a bone. Come on.
So the numbers actually matched, so it was kind of an interpretation that was pretty easy to make.
So did you confirm with her that we made it?
We tried, but did not hear back.
What would you call Joyce and tell her?
Okay,
Joyce is the one who intervened for me before.
okay,
Yeah, she's good.
She's good. Or Henry, either one. Joyce
Okay.
or Henry. They will get with her and get her to do whatever.
okay.
You have Joyce's number?
I mean, I think it's pretty safe.
We can always correct it.
I think
if
she
we had-
put it in
Yeah.
UAN incorrectly. is
Right.
What I think she
She
did,
put it in her year-end report
As a total?
incorrectly.
instead of just revenue.
But
Yeah.
make sure she knows, because they've had some issues with their auditing, so I want to make sure they're not getting
Okay.
it.
Yeah, because if we don't get her fixed on UAN, it's gonna.
It's gonna be an
another
audit problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve and.
Oh, wait, we gotta read
To
it.
read it?
Yeah.
general fund total is 773,753.86. Special revenue fund total is 2,087,639.47. Capital projects fund total is 12,127.84.
Special assessment funds I have. Capital project I have 0.
Oh, okay. And then fiduciary funds, 14,759 for a total of 2,888,280.17. And appropriations do not exceed.
Also move.
Yes,
Yes.
good work.
040. Like,
No, good work with doing part of this budget.
there's only 9 numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're just not calling you back, huh?
She does, and then we reach out and then she doesn't,
She goes.
so it's like she's there, but then I don't know.
Pearl flag.
I don't know.
You don't watch that. You know what MASH is?
I know what it is.
A little young. You're way.
Then the Jaga Public Health appropriation transfer, they have a $250 transfer from,
Wow. Wow, they needed more revenue.
That's right.
They need money in their line item to support admin fees from the state, so that's
Yeah.
why. It's an appropriation transfer.
Okay, so moved.
it's, yeah.
Yes.
I bet it cost $300.
We have this
For that.
undivided local government thing. I didn't know what you guys felt, or if you wanna.
Chris is really in the mood to talk more and extend this meeting.
No, I already had the phone call. I told her I can't.
It's just that it was part of the minutes, so I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
So this is the formula.
Annual review of the formula.
Well, we did the annual review, but we had discussed, we had discussed proposing a new formula,
Because the
eliminating the,
commissioners
yeah.
Commissioners had expressed a desire to find some way of helping local governments who are struggling with losing their millage by surrendering it back to the taxpayers. And one of the suggestions I believe you made, Jim, was we could always recalculate the local government fund, albeit it would not be instantaneous because it's forward looking, but they could, in fact, by reducing their grab at that money, give it to everyone else.
Which in my brain, I'm rolling around, it's like 750,000
Yeah.
the county gets.
It is.
Look at that.
Mhm.
Like a savant, just remember random numbers.
Not exactly an idiot savant, yes.
Well, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't understand the PowerPoint.
The guy who flunked out was running math for us, so
I didn't flunk it.
you were close.
Well, maybe. Okay. Well, I was right about that. So we could redistribute the 750K.
So what do you want to do? You want to,
So the county, right now, we remember we did do this and took it away from the park. So this was in 2021. We did, now, if you recall, was this for everybody? Oh,
Extra. I didn't-
so if you recall, the rule is the county has to approve it and the most populous political subdivision,
City, no,
The city.
city,
the city.
Well, the next,
just Shard,
yeah.
That's
municipality.
not the most populous municipality. is the
That's
city.
all we
which
have.
is, we only have one.
No, we have municipalities.
Because you got the villages.
Are villages included in that?
well,
Municipalities.
and this would be good to visit because we lost the Quilla Village.
Yes.
So the percentages all get changed.
I never really counted them anyway, so.
No.
it's a four.
Well, Chris did, because they were a pothole away from something.
Sinkhole, same ropes. So my recollection is the way this works is you propose the formula. We have to approve, we send it to everybody who then has to approve the new formula.
There has to be a acceptance by certain parties and then
Yeah.
a majority of the others.
The only thing that makes me nervous doing this is because the city has veto power. If you give them all the money, and there was ever a time when the county wanted some of the money back, I think the city could effectively block the county from receiving any of the money back. And that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
I just don't like how that statute's written.
Well, you're the counsel for the county. Look, there's other mechanisms that the county can use to get money back to. I think the residents are the deserving parties. There are some local governments who do not need assistance. There are some that do, and there's some that don't. And this is a wholesale approach.
The challenge, I'm sorry, to say something.
It's not our ability to.
We can't, because there's a $15,000 floor that we set. We could increase the floor, which would help smaller. But it's a challenge because who's going to benefit from this? The city arguably doesn't need the money. Bainbridge, which arguably doesn't need the money. They're going to swallow up Chester, which arguably doesn't. So they're going to swallow up the blind share of it.
I like that concept of
Raising the floor.
breathing.
But the city's never going to approve that because it's going to drive their. The only reason we got them all to approve it last time was we took
They all
money away from the
benefited.
parks. They all
And they're not a voter.
the boats
Right.
rose.
City will get more as well. Everybody will get.
Well, if we eliminated the county share, so you're saying eliminate the county share but raise the floor.
Yeah.
And then we excluded Money Valley. So they were giving- But it's 15,000.
They're coming back on the 19th to talk about other things.
It's,
I just wanted to bring it up because it was.
how much does the county get?
So
Divided by how many municipalities?
16 townships.
22,
3 villages, city.
One now, what was
now 21.
21.
If you raise the floor to 30, you raise the floor to 7. Oh, sorry, Grayson, Florida. Oh, 2:30.
No, actually. 50.
That's one way of doing it.
I think you should talk to them.
See if they really want to do that.
See if they're willing to live with consequence. This is not a
It-
1 year.
It's irreversible. It's, the city will
Yeah.
never give the money back to the
We could
county.
talk about it.
So that's what makes me nervous.
And we don't know. You have to be careful making decisions for everything.
This could be a opportunity for the county to make a contribution to all of the entities voluntarily on a one-time basis.
They could do that.
Yeah, they could.
They could take the 750 and just give everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'll talk to them.
Yeah, and maybe
You're
then
giving the city too much power, I think, if we change this. That's my number one concern.
yeah, I get it. Okay,
I think the right thing to do is to do something like that, but it concerns me.
Well, don't put it in ink. If they have the resources available and there's a willingness, make a distribution.
if we do, I would like the suggestion to come from the budget commission.
Well,
We can make that happen.
Okay, what else do we have?
General discussion, there's just a couple of corrections from the last meeting that need to be read into the record. Bainbridge Township Amendment number 3, total was adjusted by a positive 304,699.78, not a negative 304,699.78 as read, but all the other totals were correct.
Okay.
Geauga County Amendment number 6, Fund 4012 was increased by 800,000, not 25,000 as read into the record. The total of the fund was correct at 825,000.
Okay.
Otherwise, we just have public comment.
And just for the record, we sent out 2 letters, one to Berkshire and one to Kenston, who had not provided us with a certified copy of their rate resolution. Have you heard back from either of those entities?
We heard back from Kenston Local Schools. They sent over a copy of the rate resolution, which their board approved on March 10th.
So they just didn't send it to us in error,
That is correct.
but they timely filed.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, and Berkshire,
Nothing.
no response.
No.
No.
Do we get any information from Berkshire regarding their income tax?
We do, and it is on their, it's
It's
on
on
their,
their budget.
yeah. it's
And,
in their
and just so you
budget, on
know,
their
that is
certificate.
one of the amendments proposed in the new House bill budget.
Was what?
The omnibus bill, they must report all funds.
But they do report the.
They
They
did,
do.
they
We
did.
we are pretty good
I-
in Jaga, but not across the state.
I did verify it.
We
with
still
the
meet with
data.
them tomorrow at 7.
We do.
That'll be a barrel lapse.
Okay, any public comment? Chrissy, thank you for helping me.
Hello. I just wanted to let you know that the League of Women Voters did advertise the meeting tomorrow about Berkshire, so hopefully we'll have a good representation for the public. And I would just like to make my usual requests for all the numbers and documents and sign-in sheets from today's meeting.
Sarah, did you tell everybody there's a $10 admission fee?
I may have left that out of the social media
Oh.
post.
There we go again.
Or bring a beer. One can of beer.
We're gonna make this into a profit center.
Chrissy, I want you to know, I've been watching Designated Survivor. Have you ever seen
Yeah.
that TV show? You're in it.
Oh yeah.
The White House counsel, Kendra,
Uh-huh.
you are channeling her. It's amazing.
All right, I'm Googling it.
Oh, good.
Just
Especially
a
the-
reminder
right.
too, you
Yeah.
guys made a mention that you wanted to have public comment before you made comment at the meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think
We were gonna move it to the front.
I would propose we change the order because this is a special meeting to gather not just information, but public sentiment. I think it's important that their voices be heard prior to our making a decision.
So would you like us to make agendas so people can see that public
Well,
hearing will be first?
Yeah, I would. And I would like them,
Public comment.
the process I would like to follow is I'd like people to sign in so we know who to call on.
Okay,
So that there's some order, not that, I'm not trying to expose anybody, but just so we know, maybe should we have proponent and opponent testimony or just have them mixed?
Well, okay, how do we want to do this? Do we want to have the school present first? See, the problem if the school presents first is we were impatient and we inject all our comments and questions.
Only two of us are impatient. You can decide who those are.
Okay. I know one is. So okay, so how do we want to order this? Because the problem is if they present, we're going to be jumping in. But I feel like they need to present, then the public should comment.
That's fine.
So why doesn't we'll have the school present and we will do our best not to.
We'll bring a stapler and staple tons down.
Yes. And then there will be, so the school will present their proposal, public comment, then budget commission questions and comments. How about that?
Sure.
And then are we doing any regular business or? We're hoping.
No, please, no, it's 7:00 at night. We have to,
Okay,
How long is this gonna go?
oh, 6-7 hours.
I'm coming straight from a track meet, so I'm gonna be there right at 7. That's my goal.
So are you saying that the public has to sign up to comment in advance? Is that what you're saying?
Would you,
I'm just saying we ask people to say their name and
yeah, maybe
where
we
they
just
live.
have them publicly state who they are and where
Okay.
they live, just to
Just when they
avoid.
stand up, they say that, so they don't have to actually literally say, I'm going to comment before the meeting starts.
Yeah. And I'd like it to be orderly. I don't like people from the crowds because you can't hear them sometimes, right? So I'd like them to come up and
Well, we
maybe,
have like a microphone. What are we doing with this?
we'll have to get a
We wanna get
podium
a
or something.
podium?
Yeah, yeah,
So a podium that's mic'd, because we're broadcasting this, right?
we're live. Yeah.
Okay, and it's on the first floor room? I heard
Yeah.
because Board of Elections is,
Yes, poll worker training,
Yeah.
full time,
where they
all day, all night,
monopolize
pretty much.
Yeah.
thousands of square feet for
But-
weeks at a
But
time.
Frank's got it figured out. I think he has overflow into the main lobby
Another TV setup.
and another TV is set up. He's got it pretty well. Frank,
Okay,
he's
I
dropping.
really think there are that many people. What's that room?
Well, we don't
That
know.
room's got a whole 60 people.
Yeah, we don't know.
Well, by fire code standards, it's like 32 or something, like.
Well, I'll volunteer to leave if we have to.
I
Okay,
go where you go.
so we're gonna broadcast it. We're gonna have a podium that's mic'd and in the camera view, and then
Yeah. if we
so
can-
we'll just ask people to come forward. And they can just come forward, state their name, where they live, what township they live in, or the village, and then they can make their comments.
Sure.
Okay.
Sarah, you do a lot of public hearings. Do you think that makes sense?
That makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, some of these places, like the school board where I live, you have to sign up ahead of time in order to make comment. I think that's a bunch of garbage.
You were gonna say
Frankly,
something. You were
Yeah,
gonna say
I was
something.
gonna say something else.
The other thing that I'm opposed to, but I understand why, some people give time limit. And while I understand the reason why that is, it could be frustrating to some residents. I think we would ask them, please don't repeat.
Yeah.
Previous, assertions, just either agree with them or not. And
Like the village I live in, they selectively enforce their time
Right,
limit.
right.
You know,
That's the
which
problem.
is unconstitutional.
Right. I'd like to give people their say.
Yeah.
And if it costs us a couple of minutes,
I mean, if you
None of
agree
us-
with
none
the
of us are.
council, they let you go for 3 minutes.
that's true.
If you disagree,
Well,
timer seems.
I don't even know what your bias is, Jim, but I understand what you're saying.
the important thing is we provide an opportunity for people to express their opinions.
This is a very heated issue, I would say. I've gotten a number of calls, number of texts, and a number of emails. I know you guys have well, because they sent some of them to the Budget Commission.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I just don't, I watched the school board. I mean, I don't think it'll be unruly or.
No,
necessarily. I mean, it seemed like everybody was.
yeah, they're pretty civil.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's not like it's a Chester meeting.
Sure.
In the old days.
Yeah, all days.
Okay, is there anything else?
Anybody else online?
There's
Anybody
nobody else even
want to
online.
Comment or
No,
question?
no.
Move to
Okay,
adjourn.
okay, we're adjourned.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thanks.